July 2020, Forbes published an article, and the title of the article was AI-assisted learning and its impact on education. And I think this was before, this is where the AI thing was becoming hot, the AI space. And they were basically trying to introduce what is AI-assisted learning. And they were mentioning that AI assisted learning is a learning experience that is adaptive and enhances our natural style of learning with machine intelligence. And they tried as well to kind of give us the glimpse of what AI could do to education. Fast forward 2024, and we have many AI tools such as big language models, such as ChatGPT, Google's Gemini. We have Cloud. We have Cloud with Cloud. Yeah, we have Cloud. We have Monica. We have basically a lot of language models, right? And we have other chatbots or web systems that try to integrate all of these large language models together. But I am particularly intrigued with the side of assisted learning. And I just want us today to look at what is AI assisted learning and its future, and try to see its applications in education altogether, and even in content production, right? And so first, let us try to explore some most types of AI famous for in the education field, especially for students. And we have something like AI-based learning management system, LMS. And these systems, they just recommend personalized learning resources and highlight areas where students need additional practice and track progress over time. And then we have AI-powered tutoring tools for students, such as these are visual tutors which are powered by AI, and they have recently become very popular, right? Whereby they analyze student responses and progress, and they can identify areas where students need additional support and provide targeted assistance. And then we have AI tools for language learning, whereby through these tools you can simulate real-life conversation, analyze pronunciation, and even adapt lesson based on individual progress. And so the area of AI assisted learning has become hot. And this brings me to the essence of why I decided to make this episode. You may bear with me because this is an experimental episode. And I mean experimental just as AI is experimental, to see if it provides value to you, and to know, I came across this, I've been using Google's notebooklm, right, for some time. And it has been helping me trying to digest, because I do a lot of reading, a lot of research. And so I try to use it to simplify or to quicken my reading process. And it is basically, and I just discovered it. Was it through just Google, scrolling on Google or something, or was it on Instagram? But yeah, this tool has been very helpful, because you just upload your papers in there. If it is articles, blog posts, even YouTube videos like this one, and then you upload the link there, and you can then it can help you to, summarize, kind of. And as well, you can ask questions, like you can ask questions about a particular PDF, about a particular web article that you have uploaded there. You can ask it like questions, and so you can interact with your PDFs. I know there are a lot of AI tools that you can upload PDFs and so on. But this particularly intrigues me because you can upload at least, at most 50 articles or 50 sources at the same time. And this means it's a big library. You can create your own library. So it's like ChatGPT, but this one you have your own sources, and you can now digest information. You can read various articles using this language model. But the thing is, I have been using it for some time, and it is actually beneficial, because then if you're someone who needs to read a lot of papers, especially in the scientific area, although you might use this tool, but you still need to read the articles by yourself, because then these tools also have shortcomings. Because I just read an article, I've been reading articles, a couple of them actually, 2, 3, and they were explaining about, I came across the concept that these language models, they they can actually, to this point, they can actually reach 80% accuracy and they cannot reach 99%. This means you still have to proofread. It's like, usually you use AI somewhere and at the bottom it tells you the results are blah, 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 blah for experimental purposes. And so you have to proofread or proof check and all that. So it means you have to still go back and try to prove these materials. But the Google Notebook LM has particularly caught my attention because I've begun to think how AI can help people in the learning process, especially if you're kind of lazy to read many bulk materials, like a lot of things, then you can use it to help you to read quickly, kind of. And so I thought, okay, let's make a video, because I asked also on Instagram my followers, to my friends and colleagues. I shared my excitement about the Google LM, because there was one thing that I discovered, new one, like last 2 weeks, and I discovered, and that thing made me create a curiosity to ask if people will be interested into me making a podcast, either a solo podcast or just a podcast episode. And so that's why I say this is an experimental episode where we're trying to see how, if maybe I should be talking about AI, I should be talking about technology and all that, because I'm particularly intrigued by technology as well. Well, I posted there, and people, I had one suggestion, like I should talk about AI automation, faceless automation. And this brought to me a concept of like, okay, so people are intrigued about using AI to automate. I mean, many people do it, use AI maybe to automate their YouTube channels, their content creation process. And here we are talking about AI assisted learning. So what is AI assisted learning? As we have already talked about from the Forbes article and from the general knowledge, it is just where we use machine learning to improve our learning process, like our natural learning process. It's like to accelerate our learning process, right? And so these machine algorithms, the algorithm can learn our patterns, can try to understand our shortcomings, and to get together, and together then we can try and improve our learning process, right? And that's why today I want to talk particularly about Google's LM, because Google's LM is beneficial to professional content creators, to professionals, content creators, students, anybody trying to learn. And so let's say you have PDFs of books, you can, I don't know if that's copyright, is there a copyright thing, infringement if you like upload, but anyways, you can put articles, you can put and then ask questions about these things. And so it quickens the learning process, and it kind of teaches us to adapt. So Google's Notebook LM is just a single tool that exists in this sea. Is this a sea already, or just a lake of AI learning tools? And it is just one. And I guess if you're watching this, you probably maybe have used another tool. And yeah, you can just let me know which tool did you use, but it is just one. And this means AI has greater implications. This is just kind of the beginning, the tip of the iceberg, and we haven't really got to the point where at least the AI models can produce 99.99% accuracy, can produce content 99.99 accurate content. Yeah, because sometimes if it misses things, it fabricates. I read one article by someone who uploaded on the Google actually Notebook LM. He uploaded an article about IELTS, kind of the way they rank the scores and all that, the innovation, I don't know, quotient or something like that. And actually the Google LM created, talked about totally different thing. It talked about innovation. It didn't talk about the article, the IELTS thingy, innovation thing related to the IELTS article. And it crafted just general knowledge about, innovation and how and the types and all that. And so they have shortcomings, right? But the thing that intrigued me in this Google LM is when I used the podcast audio overview feature. And the results were just astounding. I mean, the voices, the thing were just more even than how I do the podcast. And now I question myself, should I use, that's when I began to question myself, should I use it for the podcast? Because I was like, why is it creating content? The podcast discussion is great, good, better than me. Is it better than me? Wait, in a moment we're going to have a look, listen to it. And so now these AI tools such as Gemini, such as ChatGPT, they will change the way that we learn. They are changing the way that we learn. They are changing the way that we learn, because even in our professional area, in the research field, they now, like databases, they're introducing AI that can help you to curate content quickly. And so it shows that AI will eventually change the way that we approach learning. It will, maybe if we adopt, then it will quicken the process of learning. It will ease the process of literature review. It can ease the process of not data collection per se, but analysis of some literature, and so tools such as this can help us become better readers, better researchers, better, but then we should not solely rely on them. So that we become better, we are not supposed to solely rely on them. And so today's episode is to remind us and to kind of see the future of learning using AI. I already know that most people like to use large language models for their writing processes. That's among of the positive impacts of AI, the articles. But then at the same time, if we rely so much on AI, then because AI, for the results that come out, I believe that the input should be accurate, should be better, should be kind of, and so I believe it's also a call that we should pay attention to the content that we input. The input matters, because the output, then if the input was just rubbish, I read one article and it said if you put rubbish into the AI, then it will fabricate rubbish, and so it will create rubbish. And so we have to be mindful, because then if we're going to help people in the learning process, like institutions, probably some institutions ban the use of AI in the writing processes. Educational institutions mostly ban it, but it can be used in the learning process, not writing process. So we have to see that light, where AI is pretty much beneficial to our learning process, because then it can simplify. It can do things like simplifying dense topics. It can make these topics more digestible and easy to understand. Again, I say the intriguing part that even influenced me to make this episode to talk about AI assisted learning. The future of AI assisted learning is, I use the LM, the Google Notebook, the Notebook LM, to summarize, right? But I hadn't used the audio overview feature. And the day that I used it, it shocked me. And since it shocked me, I thought maybe I should also share with you, and that you can listen to the conversation and tell me what you think. And yeah, you first listen to the conversation, and I have created an audio dialogue about I read 4 articles about what's this the syndrome. See, now I'm forgetting the syndrome. What syndrome was it? Imposter syndrome. I read 4 articles about imposter syndrome, right? And I added 1 scientific paper into the reading, and then all these 4 materials, I put them into the Google Notebook LM, whereby I'm going to show you on the screen. You might be seeing the content, the input, and then I generated an audio output. And so I want you to, for the few minutes, it's actually like 12 minutes. And so I want you to listen to the conversation that goes on talking about imposter syndrome. And afterwards, we'll come back and we'll try to wrap up this thing and see together how is machine learning going to change the way we approach learning? Because this is totally insane, and I don't know if I'll lose my job as but I'm doing this for passion, so I don't know if I'll lose this space of doing podcasts because AI can do this kind of podcasting. Anyways, let's get into it. Listen to the conversation and then we'll talk about it afterwards. I'll try to talk about it afterwards. So for the next maybe 10 minutes, 11, 12, yeah, listen. All right, enjoy.
All right, so today we're going deep on something that I think we've all probably dealt with at some point.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome. We've got some fascinating research lined up.
Yeah.
We've got some expert opinions and even some practical advice.
Really good stuff.
So get ready to unpack why so many of us, especially successful people, feel like total frauds.
And it's not just a feeling either, right? Like imposter syndrome can have a real impact on you.
Yeah.
On your work, your well-being. It can almost become like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of, these kinds of feelings, do you remember Natalie Portman's Harvard commencement speech?
Oh, yeah.
She talked about how, she got into Harvard. She just kept thinking.
Right.
Like, I don't belong here. I'm not as smart as everyone else.
Yeah.
And that right there, that's imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. And it turns out she's definitely not alone.
Yeah.
Research actually suggests that like a whopping 70% of people experience this at some point in their lives.
Wow, 70%.
It's crazy, right? And what's so interesting too is that it seems to be like particularly prevalent in these high achieving fields.
Oh, interesting.
Like you think about academia or tech. Those are the kinds of places where you see it a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like the more you achieve,
right,
the more you hear that nagging voice saying, you're not good enough.
Exactly. They're going to find out.
They're going to find out you're a fraud.
Yeah. And it goes beyond just like, having a fleeting thought,
Yeah.
Psychologists Pauline Rose Clance and Suzanne Imes, they actually identified 3 core traits of imposter syndrome.
Okay.
One is like this inflated perception of other people's abilities. Then there's this intense fear of being exposed as a phony.
Right.
And then this tendency to just totally downplay your own achievements.
Wow. Hearing you describe those traits,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think I've maybe experienced a little bit of this myself.
Yeah.
Have you ever felt that way?
Let's just say I've definitely had my moments where I've been like, wait a minute, do I actually deserve to be here?
Right.
And that's one of the big dangers of imposter syndrome. It can lead to like anxiety, depression, even burnout.
Yeah, it's like this downward spiral.
Yeah.
You doubt yourself.
Right.
So you avoid challenges, so then you don't achieve as much as you could.
Yeah.
And then that just fuels the self-doubt even more.
Exactly. It just keeps feeding itself.
Yeah. And a lot of times that happens in silence.
Really?
People don't want to admit they feel like imposters.
Of course, it feels shameful.
Yeah.
Like embarrassing.
So they just keep it to themselves.
Right. And that just makes everything so much worse.
It does. It isolates you even more.
Totally.
Now, there's been some back and forth about whether imposter syndrome affects men and women differently.
Right.
Some studies say there's no real difference.
Yeah.
Other studies suggest there are some differences.
It
is complicated. So what's your take on that?
Well, it's definitely complex, right? Like the research is still kind of evolving, but I think what is particularly interesting is how men and women tend to react to like negative feedback.
Oh, interesting.
So
let's say we've got a man and a woman both dealing with imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And they get some, tough criticism on a project.
Yeah. How do they react differently?
Yeah. How do their reactions differ?
Well, the research suggests that men often kind of go into this like heightened performance anxiety, and they might actually reduce their effort.
Oh, wow. So they kind of retreat inwards?
Almost like they're confirming their own fears, Just like, see, I'm not good enough. Whereas women, on the other hand, often tend to like increase their effort.
Oh, so they double down.
Yeah, maybe even overcompensate for those feelings of inadequacy.
So instead of pulling back, they're pushing forward even harder.
Yeah, it's a really interesting contrast.
It is, and it really highlights how this whole imposter syndrome thing can manifest in different ways.
For sure, and it raises the question too, like, are these differences, biological? Yeah. Or are they more like a product of, societal expectations and gender roles?
Gender roles, yeah.
That's a really fascinating area for like further exploration.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really starting to get a sense of how insidious imposter syndrome can be.
Right.
And how it can impact people in these different ways.
For sure.
But before we spiral into a pit of self-doubt here, is there any good news?
Oh, yeah.
Can we overcome this thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, I am ready for some good news.
Okay.
Give me the tools to fight back against this imposter monster.
All right. Well, there's no magic wand or anything.
Okay.
But there are some really effective strategies that you can use to manage those feelings and really reclaim your confidence.
Okay.
So first things first, you got to challenge those negative thoughts.
Okay, so like argue with my own brain.
Kinda, but instead of just saying, no, I'm not an imposter, you got to bring in the evidence.
Okay.
So remind yourself of your achievements, your skills, the positive feedback that you've received. It's like you're fact-checking your own inner critic.
I like that, holding those negative thoughts accountable to actual facts. But sometimes even when I see the evidence, those doubts just linger.
I know, it's so frustrating.
It is.
And that's where, sharing your feelings can actually be really helpful.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, talking to someone that you trust, whether it's a friend, a mentor, maybe even a therapist, it can give you a fresh perspective.
Okay.
You might be surprised to learn that they've experienced similar feelings.
Right, it's like that saying, a problem shared is a problem halved.
Exactly.
You suddenly don't feel so alone.
Yeah, and sometimes, just hearing someone say like, hey, I get it, I've been there too.
Yeah.
It can be so validating.
Yeah, totally. So we've gathered the evidence.
Okay.
We've talked it out. What's next on our imposter busting agenda?
All right, time to celebrate your successes.
Okay.
I know it sounds simple, but it's amazing how often we just downplay our accomplishments.
Right.
Or just move on to the next thing without really acknowledging our wins.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
I feel silly celebrating what feels like a small win.
Well, and that's where perfectionism can really hold us back.
Oh, yeah.
Because we set these impossibly high standards.
Yeah.
So even when we achieve something great, it still doesn't feel good enough to celebrate.
Right. Are you suggesting I throw a party every time I finish a task?
Maybe not a full-blown party.
Okay.
But, find a way to acknowledge your accomplishments that feels meaningful to you. Maybe it's a celebratory coffee break. Maybe you share the good news with a friend.
Yeah.
Or just take a moment to, appreciate your own effort and give yourself some credit.
Okay, it's like rewiring your brain to focus on the positive.
Exactly. And speaking of rewiring, another really powerful tool is letting go of perfectionism.
Well, easier said than done.
I know, right?
It feels like it's hardwired into my operating system.
Well, here's the thing, though. Perfection is an illusion.
Okay.
It's like a moving target.
Right.
That will keep you constantly striving, but never truly satisfied.
Yeah.
It's exhausting and ultimately unproductive.
So instead of aiming for flawless,
we
should be focusing on
progress. Embrace the learning process, the inevitable mistakes, the fact that you're constantly evolving.
Right.
Give yourself permission to be a work in progress.
Permission to be a work in progress.
I love that. It takes the pressure off, right?
It does.
And it really goes hand in hand with cultivating self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a friend going through a tough time.
Right.
Challenge that harsh inner critic and replace those negative judgments with encouragement and support.
Okay, so we're fact-checking our thoughts.
Yes.
We're talking it out. We're celebrating wins.
Yes.
Ditching perfectionism.
Yes.
Being kinder to ourselves.
Yes.
What other imposter-busting tactics do we have in our arsenal?
Okay, this one might sound a little counterintuitive.
Okay.
But sharing your failures can actually be incredibly helpful.
Wait, really? I don't know if I follow that one.
Okay, so think about it.
Okay.
When you're only seeing other people's successes, like their highlight reels, their perfectly curated online personas, it's easy to feel like you're the only one who makes mistakes.
Right. So you're saying it's about normalizing those setbacks.
Totally.
And realizing that everyone, even those who seem super successful, has had failures along the way.
Exactly. And not only does it help you feel less alone, but it also creates these opportunities for learning and growth. When you share a failure, you can ask for feedback.
Right.
You can gain new insights. You can figure out how to approach things differently next time.
Okay, I'm starting to see the value in that. Turning those failures into opportunities for growth.
Exactly.
So as we covered all the bases, so I feel like we've assembled a pretty solid toolkit here for tackling these imposter feelings. Is there anything else we should add before we wrap things up?
Just one more thing, and this is probably like the most important tip of all.
Okay, lay it on me.
You have to kind of accept that imposter syndrome might, pop up again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like learning to ride a bike,
Okay.
You're going to wobble, you might even fall a few times.
Yeah.
But eventually you kind of find your balance.
So even with all these strategies, we might still have those I'm a fraud moments.
Yeah, think of it more like learning to manage those feelings.
Yep.
The goal isn't to completely eradicate them.
Right.
That's probably not realistic. But it's more about, recognizing those thoughts when they arise and having a plan for dealing with them.
So it becomes less about, will I ever feel like an imposter again?
Right.
And more about, okay, here comes that feeling. What do I do with it?
Exactly. And the more you practice these strategies, the easier it'll become to navigate those moments.
Right.
Remember, those thoughts don't define you. They're just thoughts, and you have the power to choose how you respond to them.
That's a good point. But, it also makes me wonder, are there things beyond individual strategies that can help? What about the environments that we work in?
Yeah.
Can organizations do anything to help combat imposter syndrome?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Creating inclusive environments where everyone feels like they belong is so crucial.
Right.
It's really about addressing those systemic factors that can contribute to imposter syndrome.
Okay, so things like unconscious bias or lack of support.
Totally. Or unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, so making sure that leadership is more diverse.
Yeah.
Encouraging open communication, fostering a culture that values collaboration.
Right, exactly.
Over cutthroat competition.
It's about shifting the culture so that people feel safe to, share their struggles, ask for help, celebrate their successes without fear of judgment.
Right.
That kind of environment can make a huge difference.
It can. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
I feel like I have a much better understanding of what imposter syndrome is, how it impacts us, and most importantly, what we can do about it.
That's great to hear.
Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think after doing this deep dive, what really stands out to me is just how common this is.
Yeah.
If you've ever felt like an imposter, even if you're outwardly successful, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And while those feelings can be really powerful, you do have the tools to manage them.
Yes.
And reclaim your confidence.
I love that it's a reminder that we have more control over our thoughts and feelings than we realize sometimes.
For sure.
So to wrap things up, let's do a quick recap of the key takeaways here for our listeners.
Sounds good.
First and foremost, imposter syndrome is incredibly common.
Yeah. If you've ever felt like a fraud, you're in good company.
Yeah. Second, imposter syndrome can have a real impact on your mental well-being, your career, even your relationships.
Absolutely.
It's not something to be taken lightly.
It's not.
But third, and this is the most important part,
Yeah.
imposter syndrome is manageable.
It is.
You can develop strategies to combat those feelings of self-doubt
For sure.
and embrace your true potential.
Yes.
So the big question to leave you with is, what one small step will you take today
Yeah. What will you do?
to challenge your inner imposter?
Will you share your feelings with someone you trust? Will you celebrate a recent accomplishment?
Yeah.
Maybe challenge a negative thought with a positive affirmation?
Whatever it is, take that step.
Yeah.
You deserve to feel confident, capable,
Absolutely.
and worthy of all the amazing things you've achieved.
You do.
And hey, if this deep dive resonated with you,
Yeah.
we'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts online or with someone you trust.
Yeah.
Remember, connection and open communication are powerful tools in this journey.
They really are. It's been great diving into this with you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it for a deep dive into imposter syndrome.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.
Okay, so I hope you have listened to the end. And what have you noticed? I would like to hear your thoughts about, is it mind-blowing as it did blow my mind the way I was listening to the conversation? Because then usually when I read things and probably the way I narrate, I storytell might be different from the way that this AI tool did. Although there are some, it doesn't highlight every single data the same way that I read from the original articles, because like the article from Harvard Business Review highlighted some points, and I mean, it didn't really mention all points, and it can't mention, and even me in the podcast, I don't mention all points, but sometimes it might not be able to interpret all the data you input into it. And so you kind of have to still read by yourself. Yeah, so again, what are the benefits of such tools? Because I was mind blown when I used this feature, not necessarily the tool, because the tool had already mind blown me. Is it the right word, mind blowing me? Anyways, it had already mesmerized me the time that I started using it, because it kind of made reading even more, I don't know how to say, easier, simpler, because then I usually had to read, let's say, articles to article, and it would take, let's say, especially if I'm writing about my research field, I have to read one article probably one day, because it's scientific research, and it's like I have to look at the data, and sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a couple of hours. But then with this tool, you're able to get insights of where exactly in the article can I go to get a certain reference, a certain data, and all that. And so these kind of tools, I think they're very much beneficial. AI assisted learning is an area that is to be paid attention to, because then we have to ensure that the output of these AI tools is better, accurate, so as to empower individuals who are using these tools in their creative processes, in their productivity, in their productive areas. And I think the AI assisted learning, adding the things like gamified experience, the language learning apps, we have homework assistants, homework tutors, and all that. If we add all this together, I think these kind of tools are very much beneficial to the society. And so, although still, I emphasize that we shouldn't solely rely on these tools, because what if someday these large corporations, they choose to monetize these things, and now we have reached that point where we're totally reliant on these tools, and we can no longer think by ourselves, kind of independent thinking, and they decide, yeah, today is the day that we are going to you have to pay for every prompt you're putting into the model. You have to pay. Imagine if it reaches that day, and we have been totally reliant, so it means we are going to suffer. So this brings me to the conclusion that AI has a brighter future. I mean, because this is just I believe it's around those earlier ages of AI and all that, and it has the future coming, because now we are in large language models, and we are supposed to have, it's audio models and all that. So we have this advancement, but then when we are able to take these AI tools and apply them into the learning process, it enhances our learning process. It enhances our learning quality. It cuts off our learning time. It helps us in productivity. It helps us in the creative process. Content creators, they'll say that they use, let's say, tools like ChatGPT to refine their ideas, not to rely on the ChatGPT to make their ideas, but to refine their ideas. So probably you will have, it will reach a point where we are able to interact with the tools, and we are able to utilize different tools, not necessarily one tool, but different tools for the essence of getting the whole picture, or learning a bigger thing with ease. Because computing power increases, as well as the discovery of new things, and these tools can help us quickly learn a lot of stuff. So I mean, AI assisted learning is kind of an important area in these coming years, and I believe that to people out there making learning applications, people like making learning softwares and all that. Because right now I've also seen that AI has been added to coding tools such as GitHub. I was using AI. I have a coding assistant when I was using Python in the Anaconda suite, when I was using Jupyter in the notebook, and there's a coding assistant in there. And so like many places AI is being integrated into, and I think it's for the sole purpose of helping us to quickly to cut off time. You know, the time that if we're using 6 hours to do a task, then AI could help us to shorten it to maybe 1 hour, 1 to 3 hours and all that. And so cutting it into half, if even we're able to cut it into 70, and then I guess we could speed up the learning process. So maybe for our kids and for the future. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think of this AI whole thing? What do you think of the AI shenanigans? You could share on the comments below about how you can use such tools and whether you'd like more content created this way. I mean, because if you love the conversation that you listened to earlier, maybe I could just go on creating that kind of content without my voice. Not to mean that my voice is bad, but I mean, yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment below if you'd like content to be produced this way, or you feel there's still some shortcomings and all that, and you believe that we humans should continue, you know, because I personally think the human touch is still needed in almost everything that AI does. I don't know if it's almost, but yeah, human touch, because that's a binary thing. It's 0 1s, and it kind of it follows a system that is already put in place. But humans can be, if it's like that's the destination, we humans are able to maybe go around, but AI just there. And so yeah, let me know. And that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe to SelfSeed podcast, yeah, before I start making automated content, before I start making faceless podcasts, before I start not showing my face and using notebooklm. Please help me subscribe there, and I hope you enjoyed this content of today. And if you really enjoyed, let me know in the comments. Let me know on my Instagram at Ebo Daily. Let me know what you think. And yeah, the SelfSeed is brought to you by Aussie Outdoor Products. So remember to go to in the future, I mean, the website right now is under maintenance, and in the future just head on to www.aussiegroup.com, and yeah, think about what we can help you with. If you are a team, if you're a sports team, if you're an organization that needs clothes of any kind, I mean, yeah, especially work clothes, and if you're a sports team needing anything sportish, anything related to your sports, just reach out and we'll be able to help you at an affordable price. Yeah. And so that's it for today, guys. See you next time.